Today's Chicago Bears Now episode is presented by Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping of all the best men's grooming products on the planet when you go to manscaped.com. Use that promo code BEARS20 if you want to get 20% off plus free shipping. All right, so on today's show, I want to do Bears coaching staff grades because the majority of hires have been made. Sure, a few more assistant coaches and some analysts might come in, but I think we've got enough here to go ahead and break down the staff and hand out some grades. So kind of chunk it into head coach, coordinators, then go position groups here. Matt Eberflus, the head coach. Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator. Alan Williams, brought over from Indianapolis as the defensive coordinator under Eberflus. And then Richard Hightower, the special teams coach. All three coordinators will call plays for their respective units. Offensive position group coaches. Andrew Janocko, he is your quarterbacks coach. David Walker is the running backs coach. Tyke Tolbert is the wide receivers coach and the passing game coordinator. Jim Dre is the tight ends coach. And then Chris Morgan is the offensive line coach for Matt Eberflus. You look at the defense, a couple of guys brought over from Indianapolis, including Dave Borgonzi as the linebackers coach. Travis Smith comes over from Vegas. He is the defensive line coach. James Rowe, also from Indy. He is the defensive backs coach. Andre Curtis, interestingly enough, was with Seattle, going all the way back to the Legion of Boom in 2015. He is the safeties coach. And then the assistant coaches that have been hired up to this point, like deeper assistant coaches, assistant tight ends coach Tim Zetz, assistant offensive line is Austin King, assistant defensive backs coach David Overstreet, who is also with Indianapolis. He comes over from the Colts. And then the offensive quality control coach is Omar Young. I assume there will be a defensive quality control coach, a couple of senior analysts perhaps as well. But this staff is 95% complete. So grade the Bears 2022 coaching staff. Matt Eberflus in charge, all the other guys as well. Add it all up, give me a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F. You're going to get hit with a YouTube ad break right here. Reply to the pinned comment, which is where this will be. After the pinned comment, I'm going to hand out some grades for some individual coaches. We'll start at the top and work our way down. You take a look at the head coach. That is one Matt Eberflus. We're going to give him a B- for a couple of reasons. One, look, first-time head coach. It's hard to give a first-time head coach an A, right? Defensive background, it made sense to go offense, but the more I've seen this staff come together, the more I've heard about Eberflus, I like it enough. B-, I like his principles. I think his culture is going to be good, but he's got to prove that he can be a good head coach. I think on paper, you add it all up, I'll give it a B-. Offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, A-. One of my favorite coaches that Eberflus has brought in. It's not an A or an A+ because he hasn't called plays in the NFL, but Getsy might be my favorite hire because everything you read about this guy, everything you hear him talk for the first time publicly earlier this week. He's going to engineer this offense around Justin Fields. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. That doesn't mean he's always going to make the right play calls, but I think so far so good. And for a guy who hasn't coached a play yet in Chicago, A- from me. I like the addition of Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator. Can't wait to see him get to work with Justin Fields. Defensive coordinator, Alan Williams, solid B. He's done the job before. Now his second year as the DC in Minnesota. It did not go well. Now, Leslie Frazier was the head coach, so maybe that was more of Frazier. It's hard to say, but he's experienced. Eberflus trusts him. He's been a coach at a lot of different places. I like that experience. I'll give it a solid B as the defensive coordinator. C+ for Richard Hightower. Kind of a mixed bag for me here because early on in his 49ers tenure, he was there for 5 years, actually getting hired as their special teams coach before coming back to Chicago because in 2016 he was on the Bears staff as an assistant special teams coach, gets the Niners gig, has it for 5 years. Last 2 years, the Niners special teams weren't very good. Now, Robbie Gould's been solid for them, former Bears kicker, especially this year, but some of the coverage units weren't great for San Francisco. But on the flip side of that, the 49ers special teams also won a playoff game this year. They don't beat the Packers without Richard Hightower's unit. Blocks a field goal, blocks a punt. So, mixed bag. Some of the regular season stuff hasn't been great the last couple of years, but he's experienced. He's been on this coaching staff before. He knows what it means to be in Chicago. C+, some good, some bad. Good news for him is the Bears have a good special teams unit in place, led by Chris Tabor, who left to take the Carolina job. All right, who's your favorite coordinator? Offensive, defensive, special teams. Type LG for Luke Getsy. Type AW for Alan Williams. Type RH for Richard Hightower. I'm going to go with Luke Getsy. I'm excited about him, even though he's arguably the least experienced of the group. I really think that one's going to be good, and it's going to help jumpstart this offense, which Bears fans have been starving for in Chicago. Shout out to Manscaped for sponsoring today's show. Check out their Ultra Premium Collection, which includes all these new products from Manscaped. They have a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, body wash, which is going to keep your skin nice and clean. And then after you take a shower, you can throw on some of that body spray as well. It's going to keep that skin moisturized. You don't want dry skin. It's not a good thing, especially here in the winter. Your skin can dry up very, very easily. These products from Manscaped will help you out. Also, you can get the lip balm that comes with it and their all-new deodorant. We've told you about the ball toner and ball deodorant in the past. Sure, continue to use those products from Manscaped, but this is actually normal deodorant under the arms because you don't want to walk into the office and be like, they can tell that I didn't put my deodorant on today. Just get some with this Ultra Premium Collection from Manscaped. Great deal, too. $40 for all this stuff, $39.99. It's marked down with the 20% off plus free shipping deal with promo code BEARS20. Check it out, manscaped.com, promo code BEARS20. That link and promo code are down in the comments and in the description. Let's get to some position coach grades. Andrew Janocko, the quarterbacks. I'll give it a B. He's young, he's 33, was only the quarterbacks coach in Minnesota for 1 year, kind of twofold. One, Kellen Mond, it doesn't sound like he really developed much as a rookie. I would argue he just sucks, but we'll see if someone else can get the best out of him. But two, Kirk Cousins had maybe his best statistical season of his career with Janocko as the quarterbacks coach. So I like it. I like a young guy coming in here to help Justin Fields and work with Luke Getsy. These three guys, obviously Eberflus as well, but Getsy and Janocko, Fields, all got to be on the same page to get this offense going, figure out what Fields likes, the type of stuff he likes to run, and what type of stuff he needs to work on, and how they can engineer an offense and just improve him overall as a young quarterback. Next up, David Walker, the running backs coach. I'm only going to go C+. His last job was with Detroit, and the Lions have never, especially when he was there, couldn't run the football. Remember they had that huge streak of 0 100-yard rushers? Now, part of that's personnel, of course. He does have some experience. Also was a running backs coach, I believe, with the Colts in the early 2010s as well. No overlap with Eberflus there, but kind of ironic. C+, part of the reason, too, he hasn't coached since 2018, so that's 3 seasons off. But Bears have good running backs, so if you have good running backs, I don't know how much a running back coach really helps or dishelps, if you will. Let's go to Tyke Tolbert, the wide receivers coach. I'm going to go A. Rave reviews. A lot of people think he's a future offensive coordinator. I think that's why the Bears gave him the pass game coordinator title as well. Sure, last year the Giants receivers weren't great, and that's where he was. They also had a lot of injuries in New York. Daniel Jones gets hurt at quarterback. The whole thing just falls apart. So he's experienced. He's coached for 4 or 5 different NFL teams as a wide receivers coach. Now he gets this opportunity to have the title of a pass game coordinator as well. And look, this is a big job for him because Darnell Mooney is the only proven receiver on the roster. The Bears have got to get some people in here, and they got to coach him up well, and that's going to be the job of Tyke Tolbert. More to break down, but first, subscribe to the channel if you want more free videos here at Chicago Bears Now. Just subscribe. We don't ask much. We love keeping this channel free. A lot of channels go premium once they get to, a lot of subscribers, which we have at over 42,000. But we're going to keep it free for you guys. Subscribe. Let's continue to grow. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Free daily videos on your Chicago Bears. Let's get to our next coach here, Jim Dre, tight ends coach. I'll go C, and part of this, and I'd say a big chunk of this answer is there's just a lot of unknown. He's been an offensive quality control coach with the Browns and then the Cardinals. So we just don't really know a lot. Now, Zach Ertz loved the hire by Chicago, and that's a respected tight end in this league who played under him in Arizona this past season. So it feels like one of those, it could end up being really good, like an A, or he's not ready for the gig. It could be bad, and you need a different tight ends coach. I'll give it a C. Let's see how it plays out. Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach, B-. And by the way, I could come up here and just give A's across the board because, look, I am excited about this staff. I like a lot of these names. Morgan did a good job in Atlanta under Dan Quinn, who was there for several years on that coaching staff. But I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Chris Morgan was on a staff last year in Pittsburgh that didn't have a good offensive line. Now, he was the assistant offensive line coach, so take that with a grain of salt as well. B-, he's had a good past at times, but last year he was on a staff that didn't coach well enough on the offensive line. Who is your favorite offensive position coach? Not coordinator, position coach. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive line, running backs, and so forth. I'm going to go Tyke Tolbert. I think he's the most proven, the wide receivers coach, and that's a big one because you need more consistent play out of your receivers moving forward. Go to the defensive position coaches here. Travis Smith, the defensive line coach. B, he's never been a head defensive line coach, but he worked under Rod Marinelli in Las Vegas, which I like a lot. He's been in Vegas for a while under multiple regimes, which is a good thing as well. I guess going back to Oakland as well, obviously. But Max Crosby played there, got a lot out of him, was able to get a good play out of a guy like Solomon Thomas, who was a bust with San Francisco. They get him. He gets good play out of him. I like this move, and the Bears obviously have some talent on their D-line. They got to figure out the defensive tackle position. Let's go to Dave Borgonzi. Listen, I think this is the strongest coach that Matt Eberflus brought with him from Indianapolis. I think he's a future defensive coordinator, maybe even a future head coach. His brother is high up in the Chiefs front office, Mike Borgonzi. He's the director of personnel or assistant GM. He's one of those titles in Kansas City. Borgonzi's drawn rave reviews from everything I've read. He coached Darius Leonard up to being maybe the best linebacker in the NFL. Mike Borgonzi's a stud. He might be a future DC on this staff, potentially long-term, depending on what happens with Alan Williams after a few years. But I like this addition. I think he's going to be a damn good coach, and he's going to work really well with Roquan Smith. James Rowe, next up, the defensive backs coach, B+. Again, you bring him over from Indianapolis. I thought the Colts did some good things with their secondary. Had a guy like Xavier Rhodes bounce back after he had a really bad year in Minnesota a couple years ago, played well in 2020 in Indianapolis. I think that's a credit to coaching there, so I like that quite a bit. Andre Curtis, also a B+, coming over from Seattle, has been there since 2015. Think back to the mid-2000s. What defenses were good in the NFL? Oh, you remember that Legion of Boom in Seattle? Yeah, Andre Curtis was a part of that. Now, he wasn't there quite from the infancy of it, but he was coaching their secondary when, those guys were maybe at their peak there in 2015 with Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, and those other cornerbacks as well. He was a part of that, was able to stick on for another 5 years as well. Like that quite a bit. He's been around stud players, and now he gets to see if he can help bring back a guy like Eddie Jackson here in 2022. Who's your favorite defensive position coach? What do you guys think on this one? We talked offense, now defense. Again, not the coordinator. We're not talking about Alan Williams here. Favorite defensive position coach? I want to hear it from you guys in the comments. All right, real quick on the assistant, the deeper coaches. I'll be honest, I don't know enough about these guys compared to the other ones. I know David Overstreet came over from the Colts as well, so to get him as an assistant defensive backs, I like that. B+ there. B-, B-, B- on the other ones. These are like kind of entry-level NFL coaching jobs, right? Like this is how you get your foot in the door for the most part. I know Zetz was briefly with the Packers, so cool, you infiltrate Green Bay a little bit. I don't know how much that actually ends up being the case. Austin King comes over, and then, of course, I will say this. I think King was a college offensive coordinator at a small school a few years ago. I think that's correct. I'd have to double check that, but I like that play calling experience, so that's cool. And then Omar Young is the offensive quality control coach. Again, they'll probably add a defensive quality control coach and maybe a few deeper assistants as well. Grade the Bears 2022 coaching staff. A, B, C, D, or F. What is your grade for this staff overall? If I had to give it overall grade, it's right there in that B range. Look, first-time head coach, it's going to be hard to be an A, but I like a lot of the assistants, and I think a lot of the other ones that I'm unsure about have some potential. They just lack a little bit of experience, but every coach lacks experience at some point, right? You just got to get that opportunity. Give me a B overall. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you next time.